Hey guys, Walls here with a video introduction about Chinwe Achebe and the short story Civil Peace. So you'll have your packet with you, and you need to read this front page of information right here about the author. And that's key because it's going to give us some insight into why the story is written the way it is, why the events occur in the order that they do, about the conflict, the climax, and the resolution. We can get a lot of that from what Chinwe Achebe went through as an individual. So he was raised Igbo and Christian. So Christian would be like Christianity. He had family that was Christianity. He was raised in a Christian household, but he also had family that was Igbo. And Igbo was a specific culture and group of people in Nigeria. And he worked as a diplomat during a civil war. So in 1967, there was a civil war. The Igbo people wanted to become their own nation, and the Nigerian government would not allow that, and war ensued. So this story takes place in the aftermath of the Civil War, and Chinwe Achebe worked as a diplomat during that process, or during that time. And a diplomat is someone who tries to bring two sides together. A diplomat goes from the host country, the home country. If I was an American diplomat, I would go to other countries and advocate for American interests. So he spent time in real life advocating for two sides to come together and make peace, and that's what we see in this story. We don't see the Civil War; we see the civil peace. We see the aftermath of the war, and this right here is key. I think this is a common theme. From the stuff that I've read from Chinwe Achebe and what I've read about him, is a lot of his work tries to show how things can be different and the same at the same time. That's a very general way of saying it, but that's kind of amazing. And we'll talk about that more in the analysis video that I make later for next week. Okay, so now let's talk about the plot of the story. And the story starts with a man named Jonathan Onwegbu. And again, that kind of shows the influence of the author's life. Chinwe Achebe was raised and schooled in a very Western way, a very British way, because remember, the British colonized Africa. But then you've got Jonathan, a very British name, a very, we'll say, normal name. But then you have Onwegbu, which is a traditional African name. So Jonathan Onwegbu as a character, just in his name, represents the coming together of two different worlds. Now, you need to pay attention. You need to make your plot map. You need to pay attention to what happens in the exposition, the rising action, and the climax. And it's not really until the climax that we meet the antagonist, or the antagonists in this case. So Jonathan Onwegbu goes through some stuff. We are introduced to a lot of Jonathan Onwegbu's experiences through flashback. So for your example of flashback, as you read the story, look for things that occurred in the past that have an important impact on what's happening in the story right now. And look for examples of foreshadowing. There's lots of foreshadowing here. What is an event that occurs in the story that makes you think something else is going to happen? And remember, flashback doesn't have to actually happen. Foreshadowing the event doesn't actually have to happen, or we might not see it. There just might be an event in the story that makes you think something's going to happen. What is that event? Name it there. Now, the resolution of the story is, well, I won't spoil it for you. You got to read it. But make sure you document the resolution. And what do you think the theme is of the story? This is one of those stories where the author almost kind of makes it clear in a sense, because Jonathan Onwegbu has a saying. There's something he says quite frequently throughout the story, and even at the end. But I don't want you to get stuck on that saying and just give me that saying as the theme. That he says that because there's a larger theme at work, I think. Okay, so read the story, Civil Peace by Chinwe Achebe, and then you're going to make your plot map. You're going to lay out the events of the story on your plot map so that we can make sure we comprehend the sequence of events here. And then you're going to make a character map. Let's go talk about that. Okay, so we talked about our plot map. Let's talk about our character map. So in the middle of the page, you're going to write Jonathan, the main character's name. And then in the corners, you're going to describe, around Jonathan, the character's name, you're going to write adjectives that describe Jonathan. But don't just go for physical descriptions. We're talking about character traits, personality traits. What kind of person is Jonathan? Now, actions, words, and thoughts of others. This is where you're going to put your evidence from the story, and you need to find direct quotes for words, thoughts, and words and thoughts of others. For actions, you can summarize. But for your actions, bullet point them. And you need to go from the expo to the resolution. Look for all the key actions, everything this character does that supports the adjectives that you use to describe them. In other character maps that I've been grading and looking at, we leave out key parts or key actions of the characters, usually from later on. You guys will cover the stuff that the character does at the beginning, in the exposition and the rising action, maybe even the climax, but then the resolution of the story, the falling action and resolution are very important. The characters oftentimes, how they act in the resolution or in the falling action and resolution gives us a clearer picture of who they are as people. Remember with Mary from Lamb of the Slaughter, who she really was as a person was not the person that was, from the beginning of the story. Who she really was came out in the falling action and resolution. So Jonathan, focus on his actions from the exposition all the way through the resolution that make you think he is the kind of person you think he is. Words, find direct quotes. Find stuff that Jonathan says that shows you who he is. Thoughts, this is where you got the narrator, or maybe Jonathan, does think some stuff in quotes, but quote the narrator. What are some things that run through Jonathan's mind that the narrator shows us that help us get a clearer picture of who he is? And then again, quote what other people say about Jonathan or say to him. Or maybe the narrator says someone said something about him or thought something about him. You've got to find the quotes. So just to make things, let's say you've got to have minimum of 5 to 10 pieces of evidence. 10 might be a bit much, but I'm just trying to pick a number here because I don't want you guys to try to get away with the bare minimum. We really got to drill down and figure out who this Jonathan guy is, and we have to use everything that we have in the story to support it. All right, let's talk about theme. We watched a little bit of a video yesterday by a guy named Ryan Holiday that talks about why we get up and do the work we do. When you wake up, do you say to yourself, I was created to be warm and cozy under these blankets? Or was I born and created to be a human being and get out there and live and experience things? The 3 stories we're reading, Civil Peace, An Astrologer's Day, and then we're going to read a story called Contents of the Dead Man's Pocket, all deal with what is the reason we do the work we do. Obviously, you work to get paid, but look at Jonathan throughout this story. Does Jonathan have one job, or does he have several jobs throughout the story? It's not necessarily that he likes the jobs he's doing the work. Why does he do the work that he does when he does it? That's kind of the theme. Okay, so the next video I'm going to do about An Astrologer's Day, cool story by R.K. Narayan set in India. And hope you guys have a good one. Read Civil Peace by Chinwe Achebe. Oh yeah, and you do need to answer the questions on the back of the story. Those are kind of the comprehension check questions. So do your plot map, do your character map, answer those questions. You'll be good to go. Have a good one.